Hello, my name's Richard Felix and I'm going to take you on a tour of haunted Lancashire. Some of the stories that you're going to hear are going to be concerning real ghosts, entities, spirits, trapped souls that for some reason are still on this earth, A, because they're still wanting to haunt the area, and B, because they actually can't get away because of the terrible trauma of their death. And until someone releases them to go to where all good souls will go, then they are going to continue to haunt this earth. Other hauntings, or ghosts, I believe are no more exciting than a recording, pressing the replay button of a video camera. That's concerning tragic, traumatic, premature death. Their time hadn't come, and the energy used by the body, the electronic impulses given off by the brain moments before death, can be so immense that I believe that the event just before death can be recorded into the fabric of the building, the bricks, the woodwork, the mortar, possibly even the soil. And then sometimes on the anniversary of the death, or when the atmosphere is the same, certain people actually see that event again. This is of course why these recordings, if you like, are clothed, because how can you see a ghost with clothes on unless it's just a recording? Now, what better place to start this tour than here? I'm on the roof of Terminal 1 at Manchester International Airport, and although it's now of course in Greater Manchester, of course Manchester was once part of Lancashire and played a very great part in Lancashire's history. And here at the airport, of course, which was originally Ringway Airport, the home of 613 Squadron, City of Manchester Squadron, there are ghosts. And in one of the old buildings that was originally a barrack block of 613 Squadron, there is the ghost of an old man who's been seen on frequent occasions by members of staff, by shipping clerks, cleaners and workmen. They see this old man walking through the building, through the offices, and the cleaners prefer to work in pairs. They don't like working alone in the building, either in the daytime or especially, of course, at night. There's also, of course, this was a wartime airfield, and there has on frequent occasions been seen a ghostly figure of an airman that of course could well have crashed in one of the ill-fated Manchester bombers. So settle back, turn down the lights, and let me take you on a tour of haunted Lancashire. And we're here in Preston. Strange place, considered rather an ill omen in 1715 when the Jacobites coming from Scotland were turned back at Preston after a small battle. And in 1745 Bonnie Prince Charlie and his troops were very keen to get through, to get south. But we're not here for an old ghost story, we've got a modern ghost story here in the Charter Theatre. With me is Peter Ingham. You are the centre manager, complex manager, technical manager here, and well, you've sent something in the building, haven't you?
That's right. Yes, we were doing a show one night, and a colleague who was in the control room on the lighting up here, at the back there, he said he could hear footsteps, and I was on stage, and I said, no, it can't be footsteps. Anyway, we agreed that during the interval we'd have a look and see what was happening, see if there was anybody there. And he would go from his end, I would go from the stage side and have a look in the ceiling. And lo and behold, we didn't find anybody.
You met, in other words?
We searched up and down the catwalks up there, and we met just down the front of the stage. And there was nobody there. and we were crouched down because it's a very low roof, and
Of course,
there was a handrail down one side of the catwalk. I hasten to add there were two rails now,
Right.
but we were crouched down and we were saying, you know, there's nobody there. And as we talked, we heard footsteps go past us, and we moved.
You physically...
We physically moved against the handrail.
You weren't pushed, I presume.
No.
You moved because someone was going by.
That's right.
Automatically.
As though you were making way for somebody to go past.
What, you saw no one?
Saw no one.
My goodness.
But I mean, since then, we've had various functions on where we've had you know, mediums and such like in the building, and they sensed there was a presence.
Really?
In the building, yeah.
And in fact, the chap was killed here when the place was built,
yes.
apparently.
Scaffolding. He fell and was
Down there?
Down at this bottom corner.
Really?
He landed on the front of the stage. This was all full of scaffolding.
Of course, yeah.
And they were taking the scaffolding out, and somebody had loosened a section, and they'd gone off for a cup of tea, and they came back. The two guys came back. They walked along to the end of it, and it gave way under them.
Oh my gosh! And
one fell and landed on the front of the stage here.
Yeah.
And broke his neck, I believe.
Yeah.
And the other one landed part way down on the scaffolding. And in later years, I met him up on the roof. He was here supervising a job.
Right.
And he said, I worked on this place when it was first built. He said, my mate was killed here. And I said, I've met him. He said, the bugger would walk.
Marvellous. And it was literally on this spot?
On this corner.
Where the poor chap died?
Yeah.
Peter, that's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm 4 miles north of Preston at historic Sarnsbury Hall, built in the 14th century. This place abounds in ghost stories, witches, martyrs and recusants. But while we're standing outside in the sunshine, it's best to start with the story of Dorothy Southworth. She was the Catholic daughter of Sir John Southworth. They'd lived here for hundreds of years. She was unfortunately planning to marry a Protestant lad who lived not far from here. Her father knew all about it and told her that under no circumstances was she to marry him. So the two of them plotted to elope. Unfortunately, Dorothy's brother overheard their plans, and he and his brothers decided that they would wait for them and take the law into their own hands. Dorothy was meeting her lover round the back of the house. They were going to leave the country together. But unfortunately, when her lover arrived, Dorothy's brother attacked him, killed him and his two companions somewhere around the area of this tree. And people say that even to this day, their ghosts are seen around here. Dorothy was sent off to a French nunnery. She was so distressed that she committed suicide, and they say that her ghost returned here to the hall and has been seen on many, many occasions wandering in the grounds around this place. But to bring it to modern times, she's also been seen outside here on the road. 3 male skeletons were found buried near the wall of the hall. Dorothy's ghost is also said to wander along this road. There have been many reports of buses actually stopping to pick her up, and in fact the bus stop is literally just down the road here. And also many stories of motorists and lorry drivers slowing up as this white apparition crosses the road from the fields across here and walks back through the wall back into the hall. But that's not the only ghost stories, there's more. So let's go inside and have a look. And now, making an entrance into Samlesbury Hall, there are so many ghost stories to do with the place. I actually don't know where to start, but I suppose the entrance hall here and the fireplace. An American visitor came here, took a photograph of the hall, and when the photograph was developed, there was a strange shadow in the fireplace that resembled a coffin. No one knows why that should have been there, but when the American took the photograph, of course, it wasn't on it. Because as she said, had she have seen it there, she would have done more photographs and taken close-ups, but it was not there until the actual photograph was developed. But there are priest holes here, murders took place, and of course this was a very old Catholic house, and of course at the time of Queen Elizabeth it was high treason to be a Roman Catholic priest, but of course the families kept the faith and priests were invited here. They usually came clandestine in ordinary clothes, not dressed as a priest, and if there was a sign that Elizabeth's soldiers were coming, then it would be quickly, Father, into the priest hole. And there is one upstairs, so we'll go and have a look. But first, on the ground floor, through here, a ghost story again, another one. This building was requisitioned during the Second World War, and a lot of army officers lived here. And on frequent occasions, while the officers were sitting, having breakfast, lunch, possibly dinner, a dark, shadowy figure would walk across the bottom of the room and disappear through that door. But I think it's time now for us to go upstairs and let's have a look at the priest's room, the room where a murder took place. I'm now upstairs, approaching the haunted priest's room. It's through here, up a little staircase, and into this very ordinary, insignificant looking little room. But apparently, story has it that in 1592, a priest was found here and killed or murdered by Queen Elizabeth's soldiers. And there have been lots of stories of people coming here, especially ladies, who get as far as the door and stop and say, I can't come in here. Now I must be honest with you, it didn't have any effect on me at all. But who knows? He was murdered and his blood stains were all over the floor of this room. And on frequent occasions they tried very hard to remove the blood stains, but they kept reappearing. It became so serious that the servants wouldn't live in here at the hall, and so the floor was removed and another wooden floor was put down. And would you believe, stains still appear on this floor now, and they say that this is the very spot where the priest was murdered and his lifeblood ebbed away into the wood of this floor. And just round the corner here is what's known as the priest's bolt hole. One of two priest holes here in the building. And up here, next to the room, a little opening with a little secret door. Whether I can open it or close it, I don't know. Here's the door that closed so that no one would know that there was a priest hiding above the stairs. And last time I did that, the door opened on its own. But it's obviously camera shy, because it's not going to do it again. Oh, it does, but I think I made that happen. And that is the end of the stories of the ghosts of this incredible old 14th century hall, which is open to the public. I'm sure you'll all want to come. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays and Sundays throughout the year. And of all the places that I've visited up to now, I would think probably more ghost stories here than any other place we've been. I am in the pleasure capital of Europe, Blackpool, and there's even a ghost story here. It's not to do with a ghost train, but would you believe it's actually to do with a ghost tram? And apparently on frequent occasions, people very late at night, usually on a blustery, windy, rainy night, see a ghostly tram coming along the rails here. In fact, on frequent occasions, people have stopped at this bus stop, the Alexandra Road bus stop, seeing a tram coming along here, waiting, and it suddenly disappears as it gets closer to them. There's also a story of tram drivers at night driving along here. They see a man standing in the middle of the rails, holding a red lantern. They slow up, they think there's a problem, and then as they get towards him, he just vanishes from sight. Perhaps the people that are actually standing at the bus stop, or should I say the tram stop, late at night waiting for the tram, for all we know, it could well be the spirits from behind the bar that have caused their hallucinations. But there's also a story of a man running out from one of the hotels, running across the road, making it safely, and actually being run over by a tram here. And they say that his ghost still wanders around this area. True, fiction, we don't know. We haven't found any records to prove it. Perhaps it could be the ghost of Rita Fairclough's husband. Nobody knows. And I'm now in the centre of Lancaster. Behind me, Lancaster Castle. And here, the second oldest pub in England, the Three Mariners. It's built into the rock. It's one of only 3 pubs in this country that has a cellar upstairs. Also in that cellar is a freshwater stream running through it, and would you believe it, a ghost. So let's go in and have a look. This place has been here since 1213. Absolutely incredible old place. And of course, when Bonnie Prince Charlie's soldiers came through Lancaster, I wonder how many of them were billeted here in this building. They have a ghost downstairs. Funnily enough, a ghost that stands here behind the bar. They say it's the ghost of a man. They don't know who it is. Whether it's an old landlord that loved the building and still haunts it, nobody knows. But the latest sighting of a ghost was actually by the landlady's son, and it was upstairs in the cellar. Let's go and see it. And this is quite incredible. I have never seen anything like this before. You actually climb up this metal ladder to get into the cellar. And I've never climbed up into a cellar before. And behind me, of course, the hoist to actually lift the beer barrels up into the cellar. rather than rolling them down or dropping them down. Quite amazing. Here is the stream. Water running through here, algae of course, all green. It runs down here. You can see that I'm standing in the water and there are little holes here for the water to disappear, and it flows away down here and down the drain. And whether it's water that attracts a ghost up here, I don't know. But literally here, standing in the middle of the room, one day, Graham, the son of the landlady, was up here fetching ice, came back downstairs, of course, and said to his mum, "Mum, I've just seen a ghost." And he saw the figure of a man standing here, right in the middle of this cellar. And I would imagine that he beat a hasty retreat, just as I'm going to do now. And I shall now go downstairs out of the cellar. And even more ghost stories. The old pool room, which was through there, used to have obviously a table in it. It hasn't anymore, and apparently people used to see the balls rolling around the table when nobody was there, nobody got a cue, nobody was knocking them. There's a ghost in the ladies' toilets, and I think probably for the first time in my life I'm off up to the ladies' room to have a look. Now it's surprising actually, because when people talk ghosts and toilets, it's always rather tongue-in-cheek. People usually laugh, but you'd be surprised while we've been doing this tour just how many toilet ghost stories there are. And I'm now standing in the ladies' toilet, and on frequent occasions customers, ladies, come downstairs, come back to the bar, and they say to the landlady, "I've seen a ghost in the ladies' toilets." And luckily, it's the ghost of a lady. I'm in the little historic village of Up Holland, very, very close to Wigan. This place goes back to the time of the Romans, and across the road there used to be a ghost house. To the right hand side of the White Lion pub was a 3-storey house where over many hundreds of years there have been reported sightings of a ghost, sounds of a ghost. Villagers used to say that they used to hear screams coming from the house, and inside the house glasses, cups and saucers would fly about. Tongs and pokers from the fire used to dance about in front of the fire. The house was demolished and is now part of the car park of the White Lion pub. There is the ghost story of a gentleman of the road, a highwayman called George Lyon. He lived somewhere in Up Holland. Whether that was his house, nobody seems to know, but there have been many reported sightings in and around the village. And strangely enough, he's buried only 80 feet from the pub, somewhere here in the churchyard of St Thomas the Martyr. So I think it would be probably a good idea to go inside the pub, see what we can find. And we're now inside the White Lion at Up Holland, and with me, Jimmy, you're the landlord.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
I mean, have you seen anything inside the pub?
I've never seen anything. We've only heard one voice, and the voice said hello. And there was 3 of us in that night, and there was nobody in the pub at all. We looked in every room, and that was it, just hello.
Really? I mean, did it come from behind the bar, or?
No, it definitely came from inside.
Right.
But
Nobody
else in the pub.
Good grief.
And all 3 of us heard it.
Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't the spirits behind the bar talking?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
And what about, there was a previous landlord, he actually had an experience, didn't he, inside? Or
Mick actually had two experiences. One was his cleaner. His cleaner actually saw a figure doing in that room there.
Right.
And then about 3 months later, Mick was actually cashing up down the bar, and he got a tap on his shoulder. And when he turned around, it was a nun in the habit and everything.
Standing inside here?
Just right behind him.
And of course, this building is obviously stands on much earlier properties.
Yeah, it's round about 1400s.
Crikey. So there could well have been something else, monastic house, nunnery, something around here that...
Well, there is a nunnery across the road.
Oh, say no more.
And in the car park over there, you can actually see the archway what led to it. But now there's only that much of the archway left because they built it up.
Oh, I see. So she's obviously, for whatever reason, still haunting the area because of the nunnery across the road.
Yeah.
Hey, that's great. Well, now the grave, he's not actually, you can't see his grave, can you? The highwayman's grave.
Actually, you can. He's with his mother across the road.
Really?
Yeah.
So they've actually buried him in his mum's grave?
Yes. His mum's called Nanny Lion.
Oh my gosh. Oh well.
And that's just across the road there.
I think I'll go and have a look. Jimmy, that's great. Thanks very much.
Anytime.
Cheers. Now, according to Jimmy, the grave is somewhere around here in the bushes. So, a quick search. He says it's a very plain looking grave. Some fantastic old graves here. This one going back to 1776. It's very close to the road. That's Annie something, it's not that one. Nanny Lion! This is it. Yeah, the grave of Nanny Lion. Died April the 17th, I think 1801. There it is, Lion. And in here, underneath this gravestone, also the famous highwayman, George Lion. He was actually the last highwayman to be hanged at Lancaster Prison. And I wonder, it's so close, look, the road is almost on top of the grave. It's not exactly disturbed it, but is that the reason that George Lion still haunts this area? Who knows? George Lion, the famous Up Holland highwayman, haunts the area around here, the crossroads at Billinge. On many occasions he used to stay at the Stork Inn. A gentleman driving to work on 3 separate occasions at 8 o'clock in the morning saw the figure of a highwayman standing on the crossroads. And another gentleman visiting friends here, walking down to the pub late one night, actually says that he had, for want of a better word, a flashback in time. He saw the ghostly reenactment of a highwayman standing near the church with pistols, holding up his victim and actually taking a purse of gold off the poor unfortunate man here on these crossroads at Billinge. They've done exorcisms round here and things seem to have quietened down to a certain extent. But I can assure you, there are still sightings of both the Cavalier at the Stork and George Lion here in Billinge. And I'm standing in the car park of the old Stork Hotel, now known as the Stork Inn. The building goes back, they believe, possibly to the 14th century. It says on the door 1752. It's got the ghost of a royalist soldier, a cavalier. This place was used as a prison. It was known for a period of time as the Tower Prison. Parts of it are still preserved underneath the building. And during the English Civil War, royalist soldiers were imprisoned here. One of them died from mistreatment by Cromwell's soldiers here at the inn. And his ghost still haunts this building to this day. There have been many reported sightings when it was a hotel. Very, very loud footsteps clonking along the landing, so loud that they actually woke up some of the guests in the night. And a cavalier, a royalist, has been seen around the building on many occasions. In the bar, walking up and down the stairs, still got the original staircase in it. And one gentleman, a customer at the pub, went to the gents' toilets and was standing washing his hands and noticed in the mirror a cavalier standing behind him. Made him jump. He turned thinking that it was just a chap that was off to a fancy dress party, and he watched it vaporise. It just vanished and disappeared in front of him. Now, the amazing thing is that an awful lot of people believe when they first see a ghost that it's a real person, just like the gentleman did in the toilets. He didn't sort of jump backwards terrified because he'd seen a ghost. He just converted it straight to reality, as people do. Thought he was going to a fancy dress party. And people frequently do this. They think that the ghost or the apparition that they've seen is their dad coming in the room, Dr. so-and-so off the other shift, something like that. It's only when they do something strange, like walking through the walls, disappearing, vanishing, vaporising as the ghost did here, that they actually realise that they've seen a ghost. The original road goes down here, and round the corner you can actually still see the original mullion windows of the old building. One here, now at ground level, almost disappeared, and round the corner here, even better ones of the original window. And this is part of the cellar, the prison underneath, that you can see from the other side. And all of this is the original part. Probably the ghost is, for want of a better word, recorded into the fabric of this building. The stone does tend to hold events a little bit like a cassette player. It's really no different to pressing the play button of a cassette player, of a video recorder, and you see the event again. But there's no doubt about it that the old Stork Hotel here at Billinge is a very, very haunted building. And the landlord has very kindly let me half demolish his cellar, because apparently there's a tunnel down here, and the original cells where the royalist prisoners were actually incarcerated is through here. I've taken all this down, I've had to move all this. We've taken the light off the video camera so we can actually go in and have a look. And well, this is where all the ghostly things seem to emanate from, so we'll go in and have a look. I don't know what I'm going to see around this corner, so I'm a little bit, or slightly apprehensive to say the least. But here we go. Oh my God, is this old? And just showing the light so the cameraman can see where he's coming. And in we go. It's very wet, very muddy. Oh my goodness. And through here is the original prison where the prisoners were kept. The royalist prisoners were actually chained to the walls down here. They've told me that somewhere around there are chains still on the walls. I can't see any. You can see the original old mullion windows here that are now below the level of the road, which is outside. And this apparently is the original bench or thrall where they used to sit on for hours and hours. And of course it was down here that one of the royalist prisoners died, possibly from jail fever, I would think, or something like that, the stench, which of course was a form of typhus. It's cold down here, it's wet, and there is quite an unnatural feeling down here. Not somewhere that I'd like to stay for very long, I'll be honest, but I've had enough. I think we'll beat a hasty retreat out of here. back to the light. Switch this off. And I'll now put the tunnel back to what it was and replace the cellar. On the National Ghost Tour, obviously we're wandering the countryside looking for ghosts. One or two strange things have happened on the way. One of them was at Northamptonshire when a door slammed while I was sitting on the bed. A strange noise in a churchyard and there was no one there, but this has got to be the strangest of all. I'm in the town of Colne near Pendle. I knew virtually not a lot about the history of parts of Lancashire, and driving up this morning on the M6 I was humming Nearer My God to Thee. When we arrived at Preston I was given this booklet from the Tourist Information Office called Discovering Pendle, and I was looking through it, noticing one or two names, and would you believe I actually found the name of Wallace Hartley, who's buried here in this churchyard. This is Wallace Hartley's grave, and it says, "In loving memory of Wallace Henry, the beloved son of Albion and Elizabeth Hartley, formerly of Colne, who lost his life in the SS Titanic disaster on April the 15th, 1912, aged 33 years. Wallace Hartley was the band leader on the Titanic, and as the ship was sinking, he organised the band to stay on the deck and play Nearer My God to Thee. And I just can't believe that I was, for absolutely no reason at all, humming that tune on the way up here to Lancashire today. It's taken me nearly an hour to find this grave, but I'm very, very glad that I've done it. I'm on the outskirts of Swinton at a very old Catholic house called Wardley Hall. According to a booklet that I've just been given, a brief history of Wardley Hall, in brackets it says, the House of the Skull. A Roman Catholic priest, St Ambrose Barlow, was arrested in Manchester in 1641. He was accused of being a Roman Catholic priest, and of course in those days, after Queen Elizabeth, it was high treason to be a Catholic priest in this country. He was taken to Lancaster prison, to the castle, where he was tried at the assizes for high treason and sentenced to be hanged, drawn and quartered. That actual sentence was carried out. That sentence was pretty horrific. It was that you be taken back from this place to the place of execution, where you will be hanged by the neck, but taken down while you are still alive. Your bowels and entrails to be taken out and burnt before your eyes. Your head to be severed from your body, and your body to be divided into 4 equal quarters. And may the Lord have mercy upon your soul. After he was executed, his severed head was stuck on a pike and left for a warning to all Roman Catholics. After the event, the head was taken down, possibly by a member of his family, and brought back here to Wardley and hidden in a secret compartment. Even to this day, it is still on show on the staircase in the wall with glass in front of it. And part of the deeds of this building state that that head or skull must never be removed from this place. On frequent occasions in the past, this was converted into miners' tenements and various other things, and of course people living here wanted to remove the skull. every time it went from the house to state the book, all hell let loose from within. Poltergeist activity took place, furniture was moved, pottery broken, and on frequent occasions during the night, screams were heard from outside the hall until the skull was replaced. Exorcisms were done, and to a certain extent it calmed down. But even to this day, no one dare remove the screaming skull from Wardley Hall. Pendle Hill rises above the ancient hunting ground known as the Forest of Bowland. It was a place of wolves and wild boar, and it was very much a place of mystery. I'm in the village churchyard of Newchurch in Pendle, and here in 1612 took place an incredible act of persecution against the Pendle witches. There were two old ladies known as Demdike and Chattox. Many people believed that they could have been witches. This was the time of King James I, son of Mary Queen of Scots. He was fascinated and terrified by witchcraft. He, in fact, wrote a book called Demonology. And one day, the granddaughter of this lady called Demdike was walking towards the village of Colne, begging. She asked a peddler if he would give her some pins, and he refused. And she said that she was a witch and that she would put a spell on him. He collapsed on the floor in a fit. He'd probably had a stroke and was paralysed down one side. After the event, his son took him to the local magistrates, and this girl called Alison Device was brought before the magistrates, tried for witchcraft, but she also implicated Chattox and Demdike. They were also taken to Lancaster Castle and put on trial for witchcraft. The whole case became so serious that eventually 9 members of the family were imprisoned at Lancaster. They were all sentenced to hang for witchcraft. It had been stated that they'd been consorting with the devil, that they'd been possessed by evil spirits. They were plotting to blow up Lancaster Castle. They had 16 murders supposedly taken into account. We didn't burn witches in England, we hanged them. It was the Scots that usually burnt witches. We burnt heretics. Luckily for Demdike, she died before her hanging, probably of jail fever at Lancaster Jail or the castle. The others were taken out on a cart to a hill about a mile away from Lancaster and publicly hanged and buried in an unmarked grave. And to this day, they say that those ghosts of those poor unfortunate women that were accused of witchcraft still haunt the area around here. This place of mystery, Pendle Hill. The tower here at New Church dates from around the time of the Pendle Witches, and even to this day on the tower you can see the eye of God. The villagers believed that that eye kept watch over them and protected them from the evil spirits that lurked around here in these hills. And just up the road here, a modern touch, a shop called Witches Galore. Let's go up the road and have a look. It's a steeper hill than I thought it was going to be, but here I am outside Witches Galore. Good evening, ladies. And well, it's absolutely full of things to do with witches, so we'll go in and have a look. Hi, now Maureen, you run Witches Galore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what is the connection actually with New Church?
Well, Witches Galore because we trade on the history of the Pendle witches from 1612.
Right.
That's why we're Witches Galore.
Yeah, and did anything happen actually in New Church, or is it just
Not
close?
specifically in New Church. Alice Nutter lived at Roughly Hall, which is just less than
Oh
a mile
yeah,
down
yeah. I
the
noticed
road.
there are actually 3 gravestones
That's
to
right.
the Nutter family
That's
actually
right.
here in the churchyard.
Yes, yes.
Which I found quite amazing. But I mean, so you obviously have an awful lot of visitors
we
that
do.
come and
From
visit
anywhere,
and buy.
anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Every day brings overseas people. If you look on the front of the counter here at this chart,
Yeah.
we collect the word for witch in whatever language, and I think there are some 60 odd different languages there.
Really?
People that have come
Because
here.
Wicca is actually, it's a Saxon word, is that
Yes,
right?
yeah.
For wise one?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
I thought so,
You've
yeah.
done your homework.
Just a bit, yeah. But any ghost stories?
Well, yes, I do. Strangely enough, I don't believe in ghosts and
Right.
things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
Right. We came to this property. We live over the shop here.
Yeah.
Now the property is 2 handler and weavers' cottages made into one, so it's pretty old, about 1750.
Well, yeah.
1760
Good pedigree
property.
then. Yeah.
And when we came here, my husband and I, with 4 teenage children at that point. So Mum used to make the dinner in the evening after the shop was closed, and everybody would disappear. I'd be left with the washing up, and the feeling was, hello, there's somebody there, there's somebody around. No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Just that sort of feeling, not a threatening
Oh no.
feeling,
No.
quite a sort of pleasant, benign sort of feel. And eventually I came to feel that there was a woman there, although I never physically saw anyone.
No. You got the sense that there was
Yes.
someone.
Now a little while after that, a chap came into the shop who'd written a little book about the village, New Church, Folklore, Fact and Fiction.
Right.
And he said, Maureen, before we take it to the printers, will you just go through it, see what you think about it? And we're standing at the counter, leafing through the book, and I come to a black and white sketch. Who's this? Because it made me shiver.
Yeah.
Oh, he said, did you not know that's your ghost? He said, there's a young woman walks this property. She's waiting for a lost lover that went to the war and he never came back. And the drawing is exactly as I would have pictured her. She's got her head slightly bent, she's got a mob cap on, a shawl round her shoulders. That's coincidence number 1.
Yeah.
At that time, the little cottage next door here, an elderly lady lived there. She was in her 80s and she was a delight.
Yeah.
She'd been in business all her life. She'd been a magistrate. She was a sensible, intelligent, level-headed person. And I used to go and see her in the evening. We used to have lovely conversations. And she died.
Yeah.
And her daughter was clearing the house. And her daughter came in one day and she said, I've cleared this drawer and I've cleared that cupboard out. And Mum's visitor's been. And I said, oh yes, the visitor. She said, yes, you know. And I said, and then she looked at me and she said, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? I said, no, not really. She had lots of visitors. She liked company. Ah, she said, did Mum never tell you about the ghost? She said it was a young woman who used to walk what was from our property into hers. And she knew that she'd been because of the smell. A sickly sweet smell, almost like Palmer violets, was how she described it. And I don't believe in things like that, but there you go.
Well, I mean, how can you explain it?
Yeah.
You can't?
No. But it's just very interesting. And she's around. You feel her presence from time to time, which is quite benign.
That's wonderful.
So that's my story.
Maureen, that's fantastic. And when are you open?
Every day, except for Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Don't come on Christmas Day. But for the rest of the year, we're open all the time, because there are always visitors around, even in the worst of weather.
I can imagine.
I look at people sometimes and I say, "Are you completely mad to come on a day like this?"
I'll bet.
But they love it.
Yeah.
There was a bus full of one afternoon in November. It was about 4 o'clock, so it was dark already. Wet, miserable, cold, and I sort of think, well, I could close now. There's not going to be anybody, and a bus pulled in, and 24 Australian footballers came into the show.
Goodness.
And they thought it was wonderful because it was atmospheric.
I can imagine.
And
so you get buses, cars,
everything. Yes.
Do you get any? I was going to say, do you get any come on broomsticks?
Just occasionally.
That's wonderful. Maureen, that's fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. This is one of the oldest houses in Lancashire. Smith Hills Hall, near Bolton. The home of the Ratcliffe family from the 14th century. During the time of Mary Tudor, Bloody Mary, the Vicar of Dean, George Marsh, would not go back to the Catholic faith. He was a Protestant. He was arrested and brought here to a magistrate's house. This was the home of Robert Barton. George Marsh was tried in an upper room here, known as the Green Room, and sentenced to be burnt at the stake for heresy. We hanged witches in England, but we burnt heretics. As George Marsh was leaving the building and passing through the area where the chapel is, he stamped his foot in protest against the sentence of being burnt to death. And once a year, on the very spot where he stamped his foot, a footprint appears on the flagstone. He was burnt to death in 1555 at Chester, and they say that his ghost still wanders around the upper rooms of this incredible old building to this very day. Hello, my name's Richard Felix, and I'm here at my base at the old county jail in the centre of Derby. This place over the last 150 years has been a place of terror, torment, and of course death. And that's one of the reasons why this place is as haunted as it is. I've chosen Derby as the catalyst for the national ghost tour of Great Britain. Over the last 10 years, I have taken in excess of 95,000 people on a ghost tour somewhere around the Midlands. And of course, have spoken to many of those people on the tours, and of course have realised just how fascinated people are by ghosts. This is the reason that we have chosen to do this tour. The video that you've just watched is a part of that series, but I want your help. If you have a ghost story, then please either email me or write to me at the address that you'll see at the end of this video. Of course, you must remember that after speaking to so many people, I think I have an ability to be able to see through some of the stories, to be able to differentiate between a story that is true or a story that's made up. And of course, you must remember that 8 out of 10 ghost stories can be explained, but it's the other 2 that you've got to worry about. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do sleep well and don't have nightmares.